Hi there, Victor Pross speaking to you, anarchist artist. Okay, a quick little video just to answer a inquiry that came to me from one of my YouTube subscribers, and there was a very interesting question that was asked. It's a pretty standard, typical question that the anarchist or even a small government advocate, an anarchist, could be asked. And I did want to address that, and there was also a statement made to me on my Facebook page, making a basic statement, and that's something that I want to address as well. But first to deal with the question that was asked of me, and then we'll go on to the next one. Hi Victor, how do you respond to the argument that since society paid for my education and the roads I drive on, that I owe some of my paycheck to society? It feels wrong, but I'm not sure why. Okay, yeah, well, basically, that's a very standard argument, that you owe something to society for all the gifts or resources or benefits that living as society offers, such as the roads and education and the basic infrastructure as well, and all that type of thing. And I mean, it sounds like a very compelling argument. I mean, we've heard the expression that the price for civilization is taxes, or something to that effect, right? And but just to deal with this inquiry first, before moving on to the next one, is that it's really important to have a definition of your terms. Okay, it's very important to define terms, as the philosopher Ayn Rand said. The definitions are the guidelines of rationality. So define your terms so that the two people who are communicating with one another are communicating in the same language. And I don't mean language in the sense of are they speaking French, Italian, or English or whatnot, but like have a common understanding of definitions of the highly abstract terms that they might be using. One such example would be society. Okay, what is society? Society is nothing more than an aggregate of individuals. So, in other words, that if there was no individuals, concrete, specific people, there is no such thing as society. And the same could be said for a forest. I mean, if we don't acknowledge the existence of trees, there is no such thing as a forest, okay? Because a forest is nothing more than an aggregate of a concentrated area of bushel and trees and whatnot, as opposed to an empty landfill or a city, let's say. So the idea that that society bestowed all these things is that. No, there is no such entity called society that bestowed all these things, let alone the government. There's only specific individual people who are dealing with one another by trade. Okay, that is what the free market is about. I mean, the vestiges of what we still have of what can be called a free market is simply an exchange of value for value by mutual cooperation for mutual benefit. And if, let's say, in other words, that, let me put it in this way. Let's say that, to use it from my own profession as a painter, if I paint a picture, okay, and somebody wants to buy it, and I set my terms, and I say, okay, I want $500 for this painting. The guy goes, cool, I like that, I want that painting. Yeah, here's the $500. The guy takes that painting and he hangs it up on his wall, and then he every time somebody comes to his home, his friends and family and whatnot, and they enjoy the painting, and it strikes up a conversation, it confers some value to them. Well, he can't go, well, society created this painting, and therefore you owe me some money because of your enjoyment of it. Okay, the same thing goes with the roads and the infrastructure and all the goodies and the conveniences of a modern industrial civilization. There is no such thing as a separate entity called society that from some magic cloud, poof, just gave you all these gifts and to live in the world that you do, where you are going, where you do drive on the roads, the health care, etc. So it's just ridiculous. I think you probably understand the point. I mean, if I haven't clarified it enough, you can send me another a message, but I hope that answers it to some satisfaction. Okay, now somebody else here said, okay, from a libertarian point of view, the smaller the government and states' right, the better. And if you don't like what the state is doing, gay rights, high taxes, blah, 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 you can move. Love or leave it, pal. Love it or leave it, pal. Yeah, so basically the whole idea here is that, the government does have a place, and it performs a function in society, and if you decide to live there, that's your business, but you have to comply by the rules. And if you don't like it, what the state what the state is doing, its position on gay rights, for example, and paying high taxes, well, you can move. I mean, God. Oh man, if I got a fiat nickel for every time I've heard that, I'd be a millionaire. Okay, first of all, this does come down to the issue of property rights. Okay, there is no such thing as a government, which again is nothing more than an aggregate of people who don't have oppositional moral values. In other words, they cannot set themselves up and impose by force, rightfully so, impose by force whatever dictums and laws that they want, and push that by force on everybody else. Such as taxes, which is nothing more than the expropriation of wealth. That's all that it is. Okay, so there is no entity called government that has some magical supernatural oppositional rights to the rest of human beings in a certain geographical area. That's just ridiculous. That's a recipe for tyranny. This guy's speaking the language of tyranny. And this whole idea is that if you don't like it, if you don't like the country, you can move. Well, again, to the property rights issue, I have to make this very condensed. It's something that I can elaborate, that I have elaborated on, and I can elaborate again. But the basis of property rights, though, is self-ownership. So in other words, there is no such thing as an intrinsic situation or intrinsic ownership of land, let's say. It's not like I own this land. There is no ownership in that way, in an intrinsic sense. But how is it that I would own land? Is that if I make it hospitable to living? In other words, if I give my work and my sweat and my toil and in maintaining a land and build a hut and whatnot, and make it hospitable to living. I grow the food, and I have a garden. I build a hut and things like that. I mean, it's much more complicated in industrial civilization, though, where there's currency and whatnot. But that's the basic idea of those, is that the property rights rest upon the conception of self-ownership, and you own the fruits of your labor. That is the point. You own the fruits of your labor. That is from which property rights spring. Now, there's no such thing as a guy who, or a set of people who come along with a pretty little flag and give the flag, some name that bestows a country's name and an emblem and anthems and whatnot, and then you stick that flag in the ground, and then you declare, I own all this large-ass regional area, that expands thousands and thousands of miles to the east, to the west, to the north, to the south, and I own all of this. And so I'm going to set up all these rules for everybody else, and if you don't like it, I'm going to use force against you. I'm going to extract your wealth through taxation, and if you don't like it, you can move. Well, again, that's a recipe for tyranny. There's no such thing as ownership of an entire region, geographical area, where you have not catered any of your or imported any of your labor to that. In fact, quite the opposite. You're extracting the fruits of other people's labor through property taxes and general taxes altogether. So, hope that deals with that. If there's any, if you want any further elaborations upon that, if this is not clear, of course, send me a message. Again, this is Victor Frost, anarchist artist, pop culture.